Oh, man.
Big noise.
All right, Coach. We back for, I guess you could say, unofficially round two.
Yeah,
we had some technical difficulties the last time we were sitting here visiting. But take me from the beginning, man. Where you from? How'd you come up?
Man, I grew up Kansas City, Missouri. My parents are Southeast Kansas people. Moved to Kansas City when I was young. Spent all my younger years in just, I don't want to say in the streets of Kansas City, but running around in Kansas City trying to find the parks to play ball in or whatever else you do when
moving
you're
and shaking.
Yeah, for sure. Moved and shaked a little bit too much and ended up moving back to Parsons, Kansas in high school, lived with my grandmother. Went to high school there, and even though I was a huge sports fan and athlete growing up, I didn't play high school scholastic sports until I got back there in high school. I'd always played some summer ball and some this and that in Kansas City, but we played street ball, man. We football, basketball, baseball. We was in the streets playing. But I got there in high school and was talented, but if you don't have those formative years of sports, you got to learn quick. But I had some great high school coaches, man. Great high school coaches that spoke some life into a knucklehead that was coming from Kansas City to Parsons High School, which Parsons is probably 10,000 people in the town.
See,
I was very familiar with it because my parents was from there, so I visited there constantly. It was always there. But I set that up to say my high school coaches there in football, Charlie Nally, Riley Cartwright, Ted Hill, basketball coach, all those guys coached all the sports. They was football coaches, and then my basketball coaches, and then my track coaches.
Probably
my
your
baseball
teachers
coaches,
too.
Teachers too. And man, they just spoke so much life into us constantly through sports, to the point where, Riley Cartwright, who was an assistant in all of those sports, black man who I still admire to this day. He was the one black guy on the staff up there, Vietnam War veteran, helicopter gunner. Like we couldn't walk up on him from behind.
No joke.
Oh
man.
But a great man,
right.
great man, and he would always have to talk to me because I still had that kind of city anger in me. When I got mad, I was mad. It was what it was.
Man, that's interesting. I want to unpack that for a minute because whenever you mentioned a while ago you had coaches speaking life into you, if you were to diagnose yourself at that time, would you consider yourself a pretty hard kid to reach?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would, I was one of those guys that kept it all in until it just all came out. And football helped a little bit with that because I could go be angry.
Right.
And get celebrated for it, if that makes sense to you. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I could,
in a weird way. Yes, it does.
Yeah. I'm mad, and and things just ain't what I want them to be, and so I just want to fight. I fought a lot as a kid, so I'm not fighting anymore. My grandmother took that out of me.
Yeah.
Sports took that out of me, but football, I can go out and I can hit you as hard as I want to, as angrily as I want to, and I don't get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
In fact, I get celebrated. Right?
Organized chaos.
Yeah. So that was a huge part of life for me as a young man. But back to Coach Cartwright, he would say things to me when we were talking, and he would, we're just rapping, just talking, listening to me and trying to get to the bottom of things. And he would say things to me like, when you get to college, you're going to understand this.
When you get to college.
Yeah. And nobody ever said a word to me about college. Never. My parents are good, hard-working people, but they weren't educated people past high school. They just went to work. I mean, I got my work ethic from them, but, they weren't educated past high school. None of my older siblings were, that kind of thing. Again, not a knock on them. Smart people, smarter than I am. They just didn't go to college. And he would say things to me, and I would walk away, and I'd think, man, why does this guy think I'm going to college? you know. And after enough times of hearing that, I started to believe I might go to college. I had no idea how I was going to go to college or how that worked, but I started to believe
You
it.
just knew you were going to get there.
Yeah, you know, and so he would say things like that to me, and he'd say, you know, when you become a father, you know, when you're raising your family, you're going to want to understand that, you know, whatever the situation was I was working through. And so, you know, I started to believe those things, you know, and so somewhere in the midst of that high school time, I thought to myself, man, I want to be a coach. I want to be a coach. And I didn't know how. I didn't know what that entailed. I didn't really know, you know, what the formula was to that. But that's just what I told myself I wanted to be.
Had some good models, huh?
Yeah, I did. And just, you know, as a young man, you appreciate it, and you know that, you know, those things, that the lessons that they taught you would pop into your mind at times. But when you get to be my age now and you look back on it and you just think, man, that dude, I couldn't, I don't know how much money I would have to back up to him. And not just him, but, you know, a lot of those other coaches helped me as well. But how much money would I have to back up to his house to make it, you know, feel like it was worth, you know, his time to breathe the life in me that he did? Because he didn't have to. I wasn't his kid. You know, I was still wanting to play. I was going to try to go out and play hard and do all those things anyway because I was a competitor.
Right.
So he was giving me more time than, you know, he needed to get me to perform on the court. That was just his heart that got me to do that. It got me to do those things and got him to tell me the things that I needed to hear at the time. So that's just, I didn't know how to do any of that. I was 5'8", 160 pounds as a senior.
Ooh, not a senior.
As a senior. And I just wanted to go to college. And I had options of, you know, get a scholarship and go to college. I had already taken what they call the ASVAB test and was ready to be a Marine in case I didn't get a scholarship.
Was that your own doing, or just put a battery in your back for that?
My older brother was 4 years older than me, and, you know, he didn't really have a plan when he graduated high school and went to the Army. And so, you know, modeling is, you know, as much as we don't put it in the forefront, it's important. You know, I mean, we spend a lot of time talking about these kids off the microphone and whatever else and the behaviors and how we deal with it, but they learned it from somewhere.
That's
you
true.
know, and so, you know, my brother went to the military. He came home. You know, I'd see him on breaks and whatever, and he had a nice Monte Carlo and you know, dressed nice and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm like, hey, I can do that too.
Right.
You know, now that's not how I'm gonna be a coach, but I can do that. You know, and you know, played football, had a good senior season. Football coaches came calling. My basketball coach kept telling me, you know, wait, you'll get something. I was getting antsy. I couldn't wait.
Right.
Independence Community College came and offered me a scholarship to play football. The basketball coach was like, yeah, you can play basketball when football's over if that's what you want to do. I said, yeah, sure, I can do that. I'm going to Independence. Go to Independence Community College to play football and basketball. When I get there, the basketball coach that said I could play took another job.
That's the business.
That's the business. You know, it is what it is. Play football, you know, again, I told you about my size, whatever else. I'm constantly hurt, whatever else. But fight through it, finish there, go to Pittsburgh State, just go to school, finish in school, start coaching. My last year at Pittsburgh State, I got a job as the freshman boys basketball coach at Pittsburgh High School. A guy by the name of Mick Wilson hired me to be the freshman boys coach.
Shout out to Mick Wilson.
Shout out to Mick Wilson, Tulsa Public Schools athletic director.
Yes, sir.
I met him at Missouri Western State College's basketball camp. That's what I did in the summers, make my parents think I was working. I traveled all over the Midwest working basketball camps. That's what I did. Springfield, Missouri, St. Joe, Missouri, Kansas City, Columbia, St. Louis. I would just be on, wasn't no cell phones, wasn't no internet, email back then. I was just on the phone calling, hey, you need some camp workers, you need some officials. Can I come work your camp? Can I do? And I would just travel around, man, and every spot I hit was $200, $300. And you stay in the dorms, you eat for free. You know, all you got to do is get there with the gas money. So I get back home and got $2,500, $3,000.
Yeah, you sitting pretty.
Yeah, man, that's a good summer, and you ain't really worked.
No, you in the lab doing what you love.
And I mean, so that's how I got started, man. And I graduated from there, went to Phillips University in Enid, Oklahoma.
Yeah, which doesn't exist anymore.
Doesn't exist anymore. Shout out to the Haymakers. I was a graduate assistant there for Rand Chappell, who just took me under his wing and helped me figure a lot of this out. And it got crazy from there, man. I was 23 years old going into my second year as a graduate assistant there. And the basketball job at Labette Community College, which is in Parsons where I went to high school, opened up. Now, this is already October. Official practice had started.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the middle of the month then.
Yeah. So the head coach had took a job at a small school in South Dakota that was on trimesters. So he just laid in wait until he started up there and packed up and left. And so just kind of left them. And what was crazy was half the team that they thought was sitting there getting ready to play at Labette, they hadn't even enrolled. They was just chilling and was going up there with him.
It was just a layover.
Just a layover.
Oh,
so they hired me as the interim coach. I was 23 years old, and we had 7 to 8 people. So they let me, I held tryouts on campus. There was
you had the average Joes coming in too.
Average Joes. This was the best part of it, man. There's in Parsons, there's Army Reserve Center, and there's guys that come through there, in rotation, and they get to take classes at Labette for free while they're there, and got a couple of those guys to play for. But now you can imagine what age group we're talking about.
Oh yeah, these good and grown men.
Yeah, now you got to remember, I'm 23 years old.
They're older than you.
Yeah. So
now, let me ask you this: were they guys that truly had game, or was it like, I kind of got to have the numbers, and it's the best of what's here?
Combination. Yeah. I mean, we, I can't even remember. I think we won 6 games. We was 6-22 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Tough go.
It was ridiculous. And then I had to interview for the job because I was just the interim coach. They just hired me as an interim coach.
Trial run.
And I got the job. So whatever I did good enough. I kept the job. I stayed there 2 more years. We increased, and I think we were 500 my next year, 15-15, and then like 17 and 13 my last year. Made the playoffs, Kansas JUCO system, which was a big deal for Labette at the time.
Right.
Ended up Rand Chappell again, who was the head coach at Phillips, had taken the head coaching job at Henderson State in Arkansas Division II. Hired me to be his full-time assistant down there. So by then I had finished my master's degree at Southwestern College in Kansas, so went down to Henderson, was the assistant coach there for 3 years, had great programs, went to the NCAA tournament all 3 years. He left and took another job. I became the head coach there for 3 years, made the NCAA tournament, had some really good teams, and just, the Division I, and you're a coach, and you're at the college level, everybody's fighting to get D1, D1, and I wanted to be D1. And the guy that was the full-time assistant at Phillips when I was the GA, Benny Moss, got the head coaching job at University of North Carolina, Wilmington. So anybody that's listening to this understands that people that know you, the people that hire you, it's hard to get those college jobs. High school jobs, it's hard to get a high school job cold. If you don't know somebody, you don't know the AD, the principal, a powerful alum, that kind of thing.
Your resume can be as sexy as you want it to be.
Man, it's hard to get a job. So he got the head coaching job at UNC Wilmington, and if you've ever been to Wilmington, North Carolina, all you got to do is visit, and if you get a job offer from there, it's going to be tough to say no to. And I took the job out there, and we struggled out there. Benny was the first-time head coach, and it was, I think we had 121 season. But it just, it was just tough 3 or 4 years out there. That we all contributed to, Sure. I mean, not just Benny, but all of us. Could have done better, but came back to Oklahoma, took the head coaching job at East Central University.
Yeah, down in Ada.
In Ada, was there 2 years.
Which years were those, Coach? Yeah, I know you.
This is my 10th year here, so 12. So it would have been 2010 to 2012.
Okay,
right. So I would have to check with my lawyer to see how much of that story I could tell you. But there's some stories involved in that. But
fair enough.
Got me to Oklahoma, and 2012, I believe it was. Shay Seals took the assistant's job at the University of Tulsa. Mick Wilson is the assistant AD for Tulsa Public Schools, along with and the athletic director,
Gil Cloud.
Gil Cloud.
Emeritus Gil Cloud.
Gil
these days.
Cloud, good man. He was, when I was the head coach at Henderson State, right? He was the athletic director in our conference at Arkansas Tech, so I knew Gil.
Okay.
And that job opened, and Mick and I were friends. He's like, hey, we got a job you might be interested in. At the time, I was looking at jobs in Kansas City and area, get back home, and now my daughter is first, second grade, that kind of thing. And so why don't you come over and look at Booker T? And I mean, I obviously knew of Booker T. I just, recruited and been around the area, so I knew, I'm a sports fan. I know what's going on there. And so I went and just, Mike Mims and James Furch, and of course Mick and Gil. John Potoshnik, who's the athletic director, is also a Pittsburgh State alum who I'd known previously.
The dots are just connected.
Yeah, they're just connecting, and it just felt right, man. In Tulsa, I tell people all the time, Tulsa it's an easy life here. Traffic ain't bad.
No.
People are nice. You can stay in your lane and do your thing. I just, it felt right for my daughter at the time and that kind of thing. And it's been 10 years, man, and I hadn't left. I spent 5 years at Booker T, man, and met some of the nicest people I know in Tulsa. Still have great friendships out there. Miss those kids in the hallways on a daily basis. It's an interesting dynamic out there that I appreciated, because it was my first high school job ever. My daughter got older.
Yeah.
And, I was doing things like trying to get ready to coach my last year at Booker T, but also be out there trying to watch her play on the court. And, you get done coaching your game and you're trying to get home and see if Coach Kennedy has loaded up the girls game on Huddle so you can finish watching your girl play, because you ain't got to watch all of it and that kind of thing. And I'm like, man, and so I'm watching her play and I'm like, man, why is she not handling that? Why can't she? And then I'm like, man, that's because I'm teaching everybody else's kid.
Yeah, you go.
And so this job happened to come open, and it was crazy. My last year at Booker T, we made the state championship game. And got beat. Edmond North beat us, and so that next weekend the NCAA tournament was in town, and so I was still not wanting to talk to nobody. I wasn't in a good mood.
Right.
But I'm a basketball fan, and
come on, man.
I go and watch the games. Well, Emily and Justin Barkley are at the games, and I see him in the hallway at the concession stand or something. And we had beaten Union in the semifinals. They were 27-0 and number one in the state, and had just beat us in the area championship by 20 or 25 the weekend before. So we snuck in the consolation to get into the tournament, win the first game, play them again. Now they just ran through us, and we beat them in an unbelievable game, one of the funnest games I've ever coached.
Right.
And the next week, I'm seeing her, and she goes, well, I don't know what you got going on, but I got a job opening, but it's probably not the one you want. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, well, I'm looking for a girls coach. And I just thought, not for me.
Not your guy.
Yeah, I'm not. You're right, I'm not the guy. And then I got home, and I'm looking at my daughter and was like, And so I reached back out to her and was like, I'm listening. And here we are, right here sitting in the UMAC. So you know the rest of the story. So, never in my wildest dream did I think I would be coaching girls basketball at any level. Even when my daughter was young, I wouldn't coach. I always got roped into sitting on the bench or helping at practice or whatever, but I'm not coach. I would always say, I don't know anything about girls basketball. I can't help you. I don't know anything about girls soccer. I can't help you.
Right.
But I always did, and then this opportunity came, and I gotta be honest with you, I didn't have any idea what I was doing.
But you know basketball, though.
I know basketball. I know enough to make me dangerous. All my tricks of the trade are all about challenging you as a competitor. In a barbaric sense, as a man.
There you go.
And you know what that means.
Yeah, I do.
You know how that goes. And so
that ego is real, man.
Yeah. So challenge you on that level, get your mind, flowing on that level, and then get you to perform in a fundamental and aggressive fashion, right?
So did you get to coach your daughter?
I did.
How was that, man? And where I'm coming from with that particular question is, I was told by a friend of mine, the father of a friend of mine, who coached me in AAU ball from 5th grade all the way through, and his son was on the team, obviously, and he's one of my best friends to this day. And he was like, man, he said, there's no gray area. You're either too hard on him or you're not hard enough on him. And he was the one that was over here. He was hard on him all the time. How are you?
I think that now that she's gone off to college and played for other people and that kind of thing, I think that she probably appreciates what I did and what I do as a coach more. But, the first year it was rocky. I mean, you got to understand, you come to a school this size and you bring your daughter. Now, she was a student here from the time we moved here, which I think 4th grade all the way up to 8th grade.
Right.
And then selfishly, I had her come to Booker T because I was coaching there and working there.
Logistically, it probably made sense.
I was not going to be able to ever see her play.
Right.
At first, she didn't want to go to Booker T. Then she got there and was like, I love Booker T.
Right.
And then I come home and say, guess where we going?
Oh.
And she was like, you going? I ain't going nowhere.
I ain't going.
Yeah, you are. So it took us a year. I think we were 9-16 or 10-16 that first year. And,
was she a junior that first year?
She was a sophomore.
Sophomore, okay.
And these other girls were kind of looking at her like, you just here because your dad. And so there was a little bit of that, I think. But I think once the rest of the girls got to know me and got to know what we were doing and understand that, she got to earn hers too.
Right.
That kind of thing. It started to work itself out. I mean, second year state tournament, third year state tournament, COVID hit, didn't get to play it. Then last year, my 4th year state tournament semifinalist, we're 8-2 this year. So I'm starting to figure out the girl side of it and how to push the buttons to get some success out of it. But my daughter was a huge part of that, man. She was my sounding board. We had to install some rules that first year, because she was still a sophomore. She wasn't driving yet. So she's in the car with me. So not only does she have to hear it at home, she got to hear it in the car, she got to hear it at practice. And so I had to learn how to turn it off, and we just kind of put in an unwritten rule, once we got in the car, I was just dad. Like I did not talk to her about basketball. We just didn't. And it wasn't easy, but we didn't. And she'd still say, hey, let's go home and eat and come back up and shoot some more, that kind of thing. But for the most part, I left it at the gym. And, I think that was hugely important for my relationship with her, because you have to rewind to the first 6 or 7 years of her life when I was a college coach. I went home.
Right.
I had a bag. I always had a bag packed. And when I came home and dropped this bag off, I was taking that one because it was already ready to go for me to make the next trip. And
so you literally had 2 or 3 of them packed at a time.
Absolutely. And so you get home.
It's pretty efficient now that I think about it.
Yeah, you get home and it's like first thing you do is go in that room. And, I'm like, who is this little grown thing in this bed right here? It's like, I thought I left my baby. I come back and she, and so there was some gaps in there that you don't understand as a college coach, because your mindset is, this is how I feed my family. You know what I mean? Like,
I gotta go get it.
Yeah, I got to go get it. I'm not home, but home is here because of what I'm doing out here. And so, it's a fine line, but in hindsight, a little bit of an excuse. Gone is gone.
Gone.
Kids didn't understand that. So I hadn't earned the relationship from that standpoint to be as hard on her as I was that first year. you know, and so I didn't know that at the time, but you know, that time in the car, just talking, you know, how was school today? You know, what's going on with so and so? How come you're not hanging out with this buddy no more? Or I saw you hanging with these guys. You know, you new friends, and you know, we jammed a lot of time in to those first couple of years where she wasn't driving and was relying on me to get her places, and
that
so
was beneficial.
It was usually beneficial, and we were able to build a rapport that I could then use. And you know, she was able to forge her own way with her teammates because she earned her own. You know what I mean? She ran all of her sprints, and she, you know, did all of the things. She took the butt chewings and et cetera, like everybody else. And to a point where they was like, man, I feel kind of sorry for you.
Yeah,
you know, because
she was the enemy at first.
Yeah, well, yeah, at first, because you know, when you switch over, and you know, we had this conversation earlier before we started the cameras. You know, these girls are a little bit different as far as how you know need to approach them, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm a better coach because I learned a different communication skill coaching girls, but at the time, I was kind of using I was still getting mad. I was just directing it at her instead of them. Because I knew, you know, you don't have to take it. You know,
what's your other option?
Yeah. And so they were like, come on, coach, you ain't got it. You know, and so it evolved through time, and you know, I mean, to the point now where I get called soft. You know, my old players come back, you got soft.
It's
you
soft.
know, this and that.
Ain't nothing like you used to be.
Yeah. And they may be right.
True, but evolution. Now,
oh yeah.
Did you have any buffers on your staff? To where they could be like, hey, look here, I'm gonna go ahead and take it.
At first, you know, because you understand, like my staff is all new. They're trying to get to know me too.
True.
And so, you know, that first year when we weren't very good, you know, it was one of those things where, you know, I just kept, you know, personally reverting back to I know it's going to work out because it's always worked out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I've always been able to have success coaching basketball, and this isn't going to be any different. You know, I mean, so instead of me just, you know, well, when I was at Henderson State and we won, this is what I did, or this is what worked at Booker T, so this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
I just kept pushing buttons, man, and asking questions and reaching out to other girls basketball coaches at different levels, and you know, just doing my homework, just trying to make sure that I was doing things to the best of the ability that was in front of me. You know, I didn't want to be stubborn to the fact that what always worked was going to work, because I was in a different dynamic completely. Yeah. And I knew that. I mean, I accepted that this was something that I may not, you know. I mean, it's basketball, but it's a different arena, you know. And those girls forced me to communicate on their level. Right. And the ironic part about that, when you say that out loud, you think, yeah, man, you had to get down on their level.
Down means you were above them.
I had to raise my level of communication to where they were, because, you know, you coach boys, you played at a high level, and you understand, like, you know, the order is given. You don't get to ask why.
Right. That's certainly the era we come from.
You don't get to question. You know, Coach said, so we got to go do it, and we got to do it to a level of satisfaction, and it's got to be done now, and it's got to be right, period. And I took offense to that early on, coaching girls basketball. Hey, ladies, this is what we got going on, right? You know, whatever the situation, right? We're screening down here. We're gonna push through here. Okay, you know, this is coach. Well, you know, why? And I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah, in front of everybody too.
Yeah. And so once I realized, like, no, if you explain to them why, that's a wrap. They gonna go, oh, that's all they needed to know. We got this. Chill out. And so I'm like, man, is this really how they gonna just, you know? And so instead of me just having a practice schedule in my hip right here, 9:42, hey, you working layups, the 10, 12 free throws, shell drill. I'm like, listen, this is the practice schedule. We're going to work through here, 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 and here. This is what we want out of this drill. We're going to get over here and work on this. And this is what we're looking for and that kind of thing. Okay, coach, we got you. They go out there and you can get some stuff going because they want to meet the time constraints. They want to meet whatever number you said what needs to be on that board. They're going to try to meet it because that's just how they work. And I'm sitting here going, you mean to tell me all these years I'm out here stomping my foot and screaming and yelling and acting a fool, and all I had to do was tell them what I was looking for?
This is the goal.
Yeah. And so, when I tell people constantly, like, they've made me a better coach, that comes out in a lot of different ways, not because I know a better play.
Right.
I just have learned different ways to get the result that everybody's looking for, which at the end of the day is a handful of things, right? Maturity in your players, success at the next level, and to win some games. And and that last part is a personal thing. That's for me. I mean, the girls love to win too.
Yeah.
But you want to see that personal gain, that maturity, and then that advancement and success at the next level, and we've been able to do that here.
Man, you just dropped a whole lot of gems right there, but let me see, if you could narrow it down to maybe one or a few things, since you've coached both girls and boys, what would you say is the fundamental difference between those two?
Fundamentally, there's personally with the high school groups. I've only coached girls at the high school level.
Okay.
Girls are capable of pressing on the gas and performing well. I think that somewhere along the line, and this is the part I'm still trying to learn, whether it's been taught to them or it's just how they think, slow down and get it right. Slow down. Let me slow down to make sure I get this right. And
that's a good point.
They can go. You know what I mean? Like, once you incur, no. Press on that gas. You can do it. You can do it at that pace too. And once they realize, oh yeah, what was I going so slow for? They can go and perform and be fundamentally sound and make that pass and jump stop and do all the things that they were doing that they felt like they had to slow down to make sure it was right. Fundamentally with guys, it's like, you gotta, hey man, pull these reins back a little bit. Yeah. Hey, let's make sure we, and no way, neither one of those two things, neither one of them is right or more right than the other. It's just the difference that I've seen. You've got to breathe a little bit of confidence into girls from the start, get them to believe, hey, you can do this. I mean, you're an exceptional basketball player. And then once they believe it, it's unbelievable, the flower that blossoms from it. I won't say a lot. I've had a handful of guys that I'm like, now you're not Mike, right? You wearing them Kobe's, but I am. Yeah. And it's just and again, there's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with personal confidence, self-confidence. But as a coach, if I want this finished product to be what I think it could be and what he wants it to be, I'm going to have to break all that confidence down and help him put it back together the right way. And so it's a different approach because I think the psyche, and it's not universal, right? I mean, you're going to have some girls that are that direction and boys that are over here on this side.
Always got some exceptions.
But I found with the guys, you got to find a way to pull back on some of that, break through that ego, that machismo, whatever word you want to use. But let them know that, I'm not doing this because I don't think that you're as good as you think you are. I'm doing this because you aren't yet as good as you think you are. But if we break this down, put it back together the right way, the hard work, the team aspect, the fundamentals, share the ball, the selflessness, all those things, it's going to come back together, and it's going to be so much better than what you even thought it was in the beginning. And I think you jump back over here to the girls' side, and you got to start with that.
Yeah.
You got to start with it. You do realize that you are one of the most talented young ladies that I've seen in a long time, right? Oh, coach, I'm not that good. No, yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're that good. I promise you are. Right? We just got to go out here and believe in it and keep working, and it'll get there. It'll be second nature to you. All these things that you want to do, you're going to realize that not very many people can do what you can do with a basketball in your hand. And, you just chip away at that, a little bit every day, until next thing you know, they start walking in, and you see that smile on their face, and that, the chin is in the air.
Yeah, they believe they can do it.
Their teammates, and they believe they can do it, and it just changes things for them. And so it's the same mountain, it's the same peak. It's just the struggle to get there is just a different winding road to get up there.
Which one of those processes would you say takes the longest? Because I started off my career coaching girls as an assistant for the first 5 years, and then I've been on the boys' side pretty much ever since.
Well,
and my experience it's a little bit limited in comparison to yours. You've been around a couple blocks more than me, but it seemed to me that the girls seem to buy in and trust a little bit sooner than the guys did.
Absolutely.
For all the same reasons you just broke down.
They get it. I mean, and what I mean by that is, there's an understanding of the group dynamic. Mm-hmm. I think that the women get quicker than we do as men, because especially, for us, we feel like we're on an island when we start off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We come out the womb feeling that way, and that might be a little too soon, but you know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you mean.
And so it takes a little bit longer for us to trust. You know what I mean? It's just by nature. And I try to impress upon all the teams that I've coached that there's enough room for everybody in the room to reach their goal. However many guys you got on your team. If you got 15 guys and they all want to be Division I players, there's enough room for all 15 of them to make it. Now, I mean, there's a lot of tangibles that go into that. Are they going to put in the time? Are they going to, they're going to eat right? They're going to, lift weights. They're going to get in shape, get the grades, all those things. Mm-hmm. But if the kid sitting right here next to me on that team is going Division I, that's not preventing me from going. It's not him or me. It's not him or me. We can all do it.
Right. It's not just one piece of fruit that's hanging and dangling.
No. There's enough room for everybody around here to get what they want out of this. And I think that's the one thing that girls pick up quicker than guys do, or one of the things that girls pick up quicker than guys do. They will form a bond with each other behind the scenes that can be unmatched at times. Now, when it happens with guys, because it does, it can be an unbelievably beautiful thing. Yeah. But girls have that sense of it, and they will champion that sister next to them to keep pushing, to be better, and understand that it doesn't have anything to do with where they're trying to go with their life. And like I said, nothing's universal, but they seem to pick that up a little bit quicker than the guys do.
Man, it's crazy that you said those particular words, because a friend of the podcast, Coach Hodges, the head girls coach at Moore, he said something, and he said he thinks, and I quote, he said, I think guys have to battle before they can bond, and girls have to bond before they can battle.
Absolutely.
And I thought that, I didn't think that was just catchy. I thought it was damn true.
Yeah, it is. And shout out to Coach Hodges. He's helped me a lot, in this transition. He's just a good dude, man, and loves to talk basketball. But these days you don't want to come across on any level as a sexist or picking, this, that, or the other. And I think we're doing a good job of not even coming close to that. But I think that when you step back and have the time to reflect on a season, for instance, last season, we 19-2, and we had COVID that everybody had to deal with, and a great year. State semifinalists, lost by 3 or 4 points to the eventual state champion Norman, and pretty much every girl that was in a jersey in that game, whether they were a freshman through senior, will have the opportunity to play at the next level. And you sit back and you reflect on that year, and you start trying to figure out, man, what was the formula? What was it? And it wasn't me.
Right.
I mean, those girls decided that they were going, they wanted to do it. They wanted to play together. They held each other accountable. If one of them wanted to shoot extra, they all wanted to shoot extra. If one of them needed some extra reps in the weight room, they all got extra reps. We had a couple girls that were soccer players. When they were on the soccer field, all those girls were out there cheering for them. I mean, they decided that.
That counts, Coach.
And it does. And so, to finish my point, reflecting back on that and trying to bottle that, the only thing that I can take from that is to keep putting them in situations that would naturally work for them to bond. And I don't even mind being the bad guy, you know what I mean? Because girls will do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm thinking, I don't know if these, so I'll just turn myself into the bad guy. I'll just show up and
somebody got to be the bad guy.
And play bad guy and look around the room, and it ain't long before they just all on that side of the line, like, and I'm like, yeah, good.
See what's going on? We got some balance in
here. Yeah. And so it's little things like that goes back to what Coach Hodges said. You get them bonding together, whether they know you're trying to throw them in there together or they just doing it on their own, and you can start to see it, and it makes that adversity. Well, you wouldn't even call it adversity anymore. It's just some stuff that comes up that they deal with, and so that's the biggest part of it. Now, with guys,
yeah, you already know that's where I was going next.
With guys, it's almost like the bullets got to be flying all around you, not to make light of war or anything else, but the more chaos there is lighting around you, now that the chaos is going, you can start talking. Hey, who's gonna handle this? Where are we at? You understand what's happening? Let's go. And now the challenge is there. The gauntlet is down, the challenge has been made, whatever line you want to use, and that's when you'll see what you got. And then once you get that on paper or on film or whatever you want to call it, now you can go back and sit them down and talk to them about it, because you probably have an idea who your leaders are, who should be your leaders, right? Who maybe need to pipe down and listen more and talk less, that kind of thing, and get those people in the right spots, and then get them to believe that their spot is just as important. Like it's all the same importance, right?
Those roles established.
We're bred to believe that leader is the most important spot.
Yeah.
But a leader ain't nothing if those followers ain't listening.
Come on now.
And so
I think we're also groomed or conditioned to believe that there's only one prototypical type of leader.
Yeah.
The one that's just overly vocal and sometimes demonstrative, the rah-rah guy. Yeah. It's like, nah, I've seen it differently.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I'm a big fan of, there are people that are leaders when you cross these lines. There are different people that are leaders in that locker room. And in a lot of cases, if they hanging out, wherever they are, downtown having some fun,
right,
it might be a completely different leader.
Yeah.
That follows the old Coach Redmond rule. I always say, if you're hanging out and something's going on and somebody says, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that.
I ain't feeling it.
If it just happens to come out, just don't do it.
Don't do it.
In fact, don't do it. Call your mama and ask her if it makes sense to do it. And if she don't answer, call me.
Yeah.
Coach, we was thinking about doing this. What you think? That way, before you do something, if somebody say, because every time somebody done something silly, there was somebody in the group that was like, you sure we should be doing this?
Yeah. And they just ignored it.
And they was like, man, come on, man, stop being soft. Stop being crazy. And they go do it. So that leader in that situation that says, man, you sure we supposed to be doing that? That dude is, and it's usually that guy that ain't the rah-rah guy and the guy that's yelling and screaming on the court. It's the guy standing over there that's, listening and following out here and whatever else. That's usually the guy that's downtown that says, man, I don't know if we should be doing this.
And if you got to question it, you know the answer. It's funny you say that because I literally give this briefing to my guys before every weekend. I say, fellas, if y'all are out together and one person in your group says, man, I ain't feeling it, go with that. Please.
Yeah, ain't none of us feeling it.
Nah, we done been around, we done been there and done that. But my last little point on that particular topic that made me bring that up was that I'm hearing you tell me about your journey, developing yourself into a better coach on the girls' side and listening to the dynamic of how they communicate and how they come together. And I just thought about, we're both men, so that means we've both been boys before.
Yeah.
I can remember fights like in the schoolyard when we were younger, but a lot of times after you get into that fist fight, that end up being your partner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like, okay, I respect you. I know he, he got something with him.
Yeah.
He know I got something with him.
Yeah.
All right, man, let's go get something to eat.
Yeah.
And it's crazy like that.
Yeah, and I think that, to tie that into what we were talking about earlier, that was one of the things with the locker room dynamic with girls that I had to adjust to, because most cases with guys, that little fist fight solves everything.
Yes.
You dump especially on a college team, best case scenario is you only got 10 alphas instead of 14 or 15. But 10's too many.
Way too many.
And so, you put 10 alpha dogs in a cage, you're going to have 10 fights, and so that same situation, that schoolyard fight, win or lose, whether we talk about it or not afterwards, the pecking order has been established. And somehow, innately, we act accordingly, right? And so
unspoken.
And so all the locker room drama has been quelled.
Right.
I mean, unfortunately and barbarically, it took a little bit of bloodshed, but we know the pecking order now.
We do.
Girls ain't gonna solve it like that.
If it's on, it's probably gonna be on always.
It's gonna be, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm gonna tell her over here, her that over there, blah blah blah. So, and I've actually had this conversation where I was like, I'm not 100% sure how to solve this right now because I know I can't. Yeah, I know it's not gonna be solved when y'all get in the locker room like it would be, otherwise. So what I suggest you do is air your grievances like big girls, face to face, talk it out, because at the end of the day, I think that whatever the problem is, I guarantee you it's a misunderstanding about what somebody thought somebody else said or did or didn't do.
Right.
And it always comes back to that.
Either lack of communication or breakdown.
Exactly. And so, but unfortunately, the way that you mentioned is how the first 42 or 3 years of my life went, and I mean, I remember as a college coach, especially as a young coach, I told you as a head coach at 23 at a junior college and at 28, I believe, at a Division II school. And I was going to let you know on a daily basis, how it needed to go. You know what I mean? Like it was my ship. I mean, there wasn't no, and so
flat out dictatorship.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There ain't, it ain't no votes.
I love it.
I mean, ain't no votes, and because of that, you're out there, and I mean, I'm looking at you 6'2", 6'3".
6'4", but who's counting?
6'4", and I'm 5'8".
Right.
And
that don't mean nothing.
You're gonna do what I need to do, and I would just let you know. I mean, you looking at me like you crazy right now. This is a practice situation, and if you thinking you want to say something, you gonna have to whip my ass.
Straight up.
Because I'll whip yours. And,
Yeah,
and so
that's a tone setter right there.
But I mean, I believed it.
Yeah, for sure.
I believe
it wasn't a gimmick.
And I mean, I never got into any of that with a player that kind of way, because I think that before it got to that, whether it's through recruiting or off the court stuff or whatever, I tried to build a relationship with players and let them understand that, you know, once we cross these lines, this is a whole different ball game. You know, we can come over to the house and eat wings later, but right now this is how I feed my family. And you know, I need you to do what you signed up to do. You know, when we was on those phones talking and you was talking about what type of player you was going to be, this is when you show me. I don't have time for nothing else. And you know, if it gets to that point, then it's at that point. But unfortunately, that was, like I said, that was all I know for the first 42 or 3 years of my life.
You got to that point relatively quickly.
Yeah, I absolutely had to. And so, you know, again, it's not something I'm bragging about or something I'm proud of. I'm just saying that I've been there. I know that guy. And I gave my players this speech, you know, last Friday or Saturday or whenever it was. And I said, you know, I've been that guy. I don't like being that guy. I didn't realize that guy was miserable until I started being the guy that I am now. You know, that guy wasn't no fun to be around. It wasn't fun to work for, wasn't fun to be, wasn't fun to play for. You know, I don't want to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy again. You know, I'm going to give you ownership of what's going on in this program, but you got to own it. And that means when you don't do your job to the standards that we've put in this program, I've got to let you know. And I'm not going to scream it at you. I'm not going to yell it at you. You know. You've taken the ownership in this, the stake in it, and you didn't answer the bell like you were supposed to, so it's my job to tell you. Right? So let's go to practice and get it fixed. These girls respond to it in most cases, and we move forward with it. I like this guy better.
There you go.
Yeah, I like this guy better, and I don't know if this guy's a better coach, but I like the results that I'm getting, and I like the mindset that I get to have on a daily basis, where you can look forward to, you know, your relationships and the practices, and even if you got a tough weekend. We played Booker T last night, which is always a tough game for me. But I told you about my love for Booker T and how much I enjoyed being there and that kind of thing. And I don't know the girls that's on the court now as much as I did when I very first got here. I had a lot of those girls in class. You know, those girls are my daughter's friends. She was there as a freshman, et cetera, et cetera. So that was always hard to, you know, Coach Lave is a good guy, but it was always hard to compete. And you get done with that game and you're rolling. You got 3 tough games in the Union Jinx tournament, and you know, it's much more fun going into that with a clear mind. You know, your girls are excited about playing. They're excited to show up and put their best foot forward and just play hard and play together. And you know, sitting over here and, you know, just
going crazy.
You just wired, just ready for the first thing that's gonna get you up and get you spouting off and chewing on the official and you know, getting into your point guard and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So, man, this coaching thing, it just never stops. You know, the people you meet, both other coaches.
True.
And you know, the kids you come in contact, the kids that you coach, the kids that you end up following because they're in your conference, and you know that they're on the team that you're going to have to beat to get to where you want to be. And so you study them, and by studying them, you end up seeing how hard they work, and all those kinds of things. And so, you know, it just keeps giving back to you, man. And
I don't think they realize how much we learn from them, just as much as they are supposed to be learning from us.
Yeah, man. I you know. And I try to remind myself to remind them of that as much as I can. I don't do it as much as I should, but I think that when you can reciprocate it, and it happens when they get older. You know, junior, by the time they're senior and they can kind of see what's going on with the next level, and they get some comfort level with where they are and who they are as a person, and secondarily as a player. You can have those conversations with them, and the reciprocation of it is felt. One of my seniors, TK Pitts, who's signed and committed to SMU. I can't remember what we were talking about. Some sort of way, we were doing something. There was a big upset in a game. It may have even been a football game. It was earlier in the year. And, some of the girls said, "Coach, what was your biggest upset? What was the biggest upset you ever had?" And I jokingly said, "Getting TK to SMU." That was my joke.
There you go.
She was
That's pretty good right there.
She was a knucklehead. I mean,
sure.
and a knucklehead on the level of, had to do a lot of towel pushes as a freshman. You know what I mean? Just silly stuff.
I totally get it.
And so
young mistakes.
Yeah. And so that was my joke at the time. And so now she, every now and again we'll talk about it, and she goes, it is pretty impressive that you got me to figure this out. So now you got you to figure this out. I appreciate the ride. I mean, it's been fun watching. I didn't make you 6'1" with a 6'4" wingspan and athleticism, dripping out of your body. I mean, any coach would have noticed that.
Yeah, that's a godsend.
Yeah. All I did was every time you started to fall out of that line, I just pushed you back in it. That's all I tried to do.
The filter.
Yeah. So, those are the little things in it that, every time you start talking about, man, this is hard, or, I'm tired of dealing with this, or, I wish I had that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those are things, as you know, man, that just bring you back to it and keep you showing up every day with a smile on your face.
That's facts, man. Now, the differences, if you can name a few, from coaching at the college level to coaching at the high school level. Not necessarily a gender difference, but the level of it.
I mean, the collegiate part of it, man, you can out-recruit a lot of the fun part of it.
Never heard that expression right there.
So right now, at Union, I've got all the way down to 7th grade girls. I run camp in the summers with girls of every age, pre-K on up. And so they can walk in the gym and have barely picked up a basketball in their life.
Right. And
you start working with them, and next thing you know, you had them in camp for 4 or 5 summers in a row, starting from 1st grade, and now they're in 6th grade, and next year they're going to be hopefully in your 7th grade program. And it's like, I remember when you came through that door over there and your mom had to drag you into camp, and you was clinging on to her leg, didn't want to do nothing with basketball, couldn't dribble, couldn't pass, never played, and now you see her in Titan, and she's got a little team she's on, and going behind her back and making passes, and et cetera, and she said, "Hey, coach, I'll be back at camp this summer."
Looking forward to it.
And so, you feel like you breathe a little bit of love of the game into them, and help start them on that path to wanting to fall in love with the game that you're already in love with.
Right.
And so, when you can see that, and even through the high school part, you get them in 7th grade, and girls, that 7th grade, 8th grade to 9th grade, man, they look so much different, man.
Yes.
And you see them mature and watch them develop as players and as teammates and as young ladies, and it's a part of the basketball cycle and the coaching cycle that when you're in college and you start chasing them at, depending on what level you are, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, and you get them, well, you skip over a lot of that growth, because I show up to the gym and you two are in the gym. Well, I'm over here. This guy's 6'4". This dude can shoot it.
He's ready-made.
He can handle it. I mean, I'm gonna have to get him to play some defense a little bit, but man, this kid can do it. I started off, pretty much cutting my teeth at the college level, so I had to, I don't want to say drop expectations, but change expectations on what I thought a player was. because Coach Daniels, as a 18-year-old, when I'm coming to see you, is hugely different from the 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old that I get you at in 6th, 7th grade. See, so 6th, 7th grade, I'm like, man, is this dude ever going to dribble with his left hand?
You know my story, low key. I was a project.
But 18-year-old, and you got the double crossover and can finish with both hands.
I had some things figured out.
Yeah. And so, you miss a lot of that process, and you either appreciate it and love that part of it, or you don't. Mm-hmm. As a college coach, it just so happened that it was new to me and it was fresh, and I needed that change at that point in my life. And I just fell in love with it, man. Just, to the point where I just started coming up with things, our summer workouts and whatever. You walk in to play pickup, and I got stuff up there, hey, it's all offhand finishes today. You can drive to the basket and finish with your right hand all you want. We playing a game to 5, but that point don't count.
Yeah.
You don't finish with your left hand, it don't count. You know what I mean? If the post player don't face up to play, point don't count. Just little things like that would help develop those guys, and you have to put in their brain, because naturally a young person, if I'm real good going right, I'm just gonna go right.
Yeah,
you can't
until
stop
somebody
me from going right.
Do something about it.
Yeah. The problem is the next level. That's not gonna be. You're not gonna be able to get away with that. Mm-hmm. So if I don't change that in you now, you're gonna struggle. That success that I talked about earlier at the next level, it's gonna be hard for you to get to. So being able to do creative things like that with your workout, all mid-range today,
Yeah, all twos.
You can shoot a 3 and it can go in. That's okay. That's good basketball. But your team don't get no points for it.
Don't count it all.
So if you're trying to win and stay on the court, you're just wasting time. So there's some things like that. Hey, if that ball doesn't get reversed and we get a screen away or whatever, that point don't count. You do some things like that to start developing these guys, and then it starts to become second nature to them. Finishing with their offhand, making sure that the ball gets reversed. Facing up in the post at times to know that I'm not just a back to the basket guy, because those guys are starting to become obsolete. So those types of things excite me. The college coach in me, if you came into my gym and started putting those kinds of rules in, I'm like, man, we ain't got time for this. But now it's an important part of the cycle, I think, that and I enjoy it. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've felt is just the process and the age difference and what the process is like. Being home in the summer.
There you go. Having summers are so underrated.
In hindsight, as you can tell by the length of time I'm sitting over here talking, I can talk, man.
Hey, listen, and I can listen. That's what I'm down for.
So if I got a list of 80 recruits right here, all over the country, all over the world,
right,
I can get on that phone and talk, man. I'm in my opinion, when I hang up the phone, if I made 30 phone calls, I got 30 commitments getting ready to come. You know what I mean?
That's how you look at it.
But yeah,
I love it.
But that energy that you got to bring to those phone calls, it's like a practice. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just...
You can't be flat.
Yeah, let me call this #1 recruit over here in Oklahoma, man. Let me get this going.
Get this over with.
You're not getting it done.
No.
You got to be on your toes. You got to, and so, not being in that mode constantly, 3 or 4 extra nights a week.
Yeah.
Random Wednesday night off right now. I'm in here talking to you.
That's
I
right.
did a JUCO game. I guarantee you Connors is playing. I guarantee you the Kansas JUCOs are playing tonight. There ain't no nights off.
You've been hustling and busting.
So, and again, that's how you end up showing up at your house and like, who's that grown woman in my daughter's bed? I thought she was 5, those are the I don't eat as much fast food because I ain't, chasing players all the time.
Still working on
Yeah.
that.
Well, you young, but those are some of the subtle differences, man, and it's just there's not a contract. You know what I mean? Like, you're not chasing that contract extension. And don't get me wrong, man. I had I loved the chase, the competition, just the all of it, the building of the recruitment, the program, the helpers, the assistant coaches, the networking with the high school coaches, the AAU coaches. Just knowing, this tournament in Atlanta has always been good to me. I like to be in New York this time of year. It's always been good to me. Coach so-and-so at Kennedy King in Chicago has always let me recruit his players. Paris JUCO, and just knowing where to go and what stones to turn to, bring in a bunch of guys from all over the world to Arkadelphia, Arkansas, or Parsons, Kansas, or Wilmington, North Carolina, or wherever it is you're coaching at, and put it all together and make it work and win some basketball games. It's a different type of high that you don't replace it with anything. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
Flat out competitor. I'm sitting here talking to.
Man, but it wears, man. It wears, and this is to be able to turn this into that has, I can't tell you how I feel like personally my life expectancy has changed, and that's not me knocking. I loved every second.
Yeah, you did your time.
But this high school thing, I had a friend tell me once that we always wind up where we're supposed to be, and that's how I feel about it. I think that I had a tremendous opportunity that people that come from where I come from and don't have it takes a lot to get the jobs that I had. You have to know somebody. You have to have played for somebody. You have to have been, the child of somebody to get a lot of the places that I've been, including sitting right here in this gym. But I think that I was able to do it because I earned it. And so when you can say that about every job you've ever had, about every place you've ever been, about every win you've ever gotten, you can sleep at night and be ready to wake up the next day and just go back to work, man.
That's the ultimate reward.
That's it. So, the difference is we could talk about them all night, but at the end of the day, the fulfillment isn't any different. The satisfaction that you get from pushing a kid through their struggles as a young teenager, kids that look like me and you,
right?
And even though I coach girls basketball at Union, I don't limit who I try to help and what I try to do to the girls basketball team at Union. And just to see it work itself out is unbelievable. I'll tell you probably we talked about TK and that being the biggest upset. I wouldn't call this an upset, but one of the things I'm most proudest as a coach is a young man who's a North Tulsa kid, played for me at Booker T. Washington. And if he tells me he doesn't want his name on it, I'll have you erase it. His name is Kobe Austin Johnson. He was at Booker T for 4 years, and kid's like a son to me. I'm not his father. He's like a son to me. I'm not trying to take anything away from his parents. His mom was a great lady and raised a great young man. But Kobe's 6 years into this college experience. He went to NSU, didn't work out. Went to Northern Oklahoma, Tonkawa. Had Donnie Jackson as a junior college coach for 2 years. That really stuck with him through some tough times. He is at SWASU now. COVID and some illnesses and some this and some that. And he sent me a text a week ago, and I was on him. I said, man, it's got to be your last semester. You need to figure out what you need, make sure you're in the right classes. we can't have no nonsense. Can't have no nonsense. Go figure it out. Coach, I emailed her. Dude, I'm tired of hearing that. Go see this lady. Go see this lady. Okay, Coach, I'm going to go see her. I mean, I think it's okay, but I'm going to go see her. He sent me a text, and he had a picture of all the stuff that she put out. He goes, Coach, turns out I don't even need anything. I'm finished. I'm finished. He said, I'm going to take some classes this semester because I'm, just to finish it out, but I got all my credits. I'm graduating in May. And, man, I set the phone down and was like, hold on, man. It's been 6 years, and right. Kid calls and he needs a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and you send it. He's like, Coach, I'm gonna pay you back one of these. And I said, man, you're gonna pay me back with that degree. A bachelor's degree is how you gonna pay me back.
Finishing what you started. That's back
pay.
Yeah,
and so to get that news a week or so ago, man, it's everybody that. All the coaches at Booker T that were around when I was there, I shot that text to them, screenshot it, shot it to them, and all my buddies that been around him that have gone and watched him play because he was playing in their area, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they were like, man, and it was like I said, 6 years ago that. He's been in college. It took him 6 years, and that it took me 5.
Sometimes it happens that way. I've actually heard those kind of stories.
Yeah, before. But if you knew this kid and knew his route to get where he is today, we should be able to reach just about any kid, and if college is their route,
right?
He's proof that they can get it done, and we all talk about it. We're not saying that college is where everybody should go, but whatever your route is in life, if he can get this one done, you can get yours done. That's how important it is to me to be at this level and see these things through with these kids.
Salute to the young man, man. Hopefully he wants his name to stay on that. That's a hell of a salute right there.
Well, and it's North Tulsa is North Tulsa, and that's the love for North Tulsa, and an understanding of it all at the same time. And so there's a handful of things that work both ways, man. It's the push and the pull, all those things that you can use out there to get out and go and be great. There's just as many things that are pulling you back, trying to keep you down, and it's like you just keep getting washed through, and you just try to grab as many of them as they're coming through and get them out, and he's one of the ones that has been able to do it, so just proud of him.
Coach, here's how we wrap it up, man. I know you got an extensive history, but I want you to think back to a game that you coached in, and whatever team that you were a part of at any level, whether it's men, boys, or girls, college level, high school level, you lost, but you should have won. And you still feel like to this day that y'all should have won that game if you could go back in time and go run it back. Which one you going to?
Well, I'm going to say this one, and it's probably true, right? So I spent 5 years at Booker T. We went to the state tournament 3 times. We were in the consolation championship the other 2 years. So I had an opportunity to go all 5 years I was there. The first year that I didn't make it, we lost to Muskogee High School.
I remember that. Yeah, that was 2014, wasn't it?
Josh Berry.
Yeah, shout out to Berry.
Friend of both of ours.
It was at Webster, wasn't it?
Yes, it was coaching. And
that game was live, Coach.
We, a young man that Coach Berry and I both know, Kevin Sims, who's just an unbelievably talented young man. He could play basketball. He could play. 6'3", could shoot it, quick release, athletic, calling point.
Yep.
And man, so the backstory is that's Josh's brother-in-law.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The plot thickens.
Yeah, the plot thickens. And cousins to Carlin Atkinson, who's
close friend of Old Berry's.
Yeah. So that day, this is a Saturday. I gotta get in the gym. And Carlin's like, oh man, he's been in the gym. He's ready. And we've joked with Kevin about this, so I'm not playing. It's been a long running joke.
Right.
But he just didn't have his best night. From a guy that was 80+% from the free throw line and had a couple of chances from the free throw line, and it just wasn't his night.
Right.
And so, of course, my joke with all of that is, he was point shaving for his family.
Point shaving.
Point was point shaving. And so to this day, I bring that up to Josh. Like, yeah, man, that time you beat me, man, when the fix was in. It was
the fix was in.
But I tell that story jokingly because we all know the participants in that story. But man, I used to. The young Joe Redmond would probably rattle off 60 or 70% of the games that I lost fit in that category.
Right. Funny how we can always remember them more vividly.
You do.
Than
you
the
do.
wins.
The losses stick with you more than the
yeah.
wins, and I get accused of not looking very happy when we win, and I always tell people that it's not so much a euphoria you get from winning as much as avoiding the pains of losing.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate as coaches that we look at it that way, because it's almost we're bred to not appreciate the small victories in life, like a win in a game. But we I learned the hard way to appreciate my opponent's will to win. And so when you say you should have won, I felt like I had a better team, or we were in position to win. I could have made some better calls, and it may have went the other way.
Right.
But there's also a lot of games when you turn that around that my teams have been down, or playing someone that on paper was better. I told the story about taking this job and the Union boys beating us by 20 a week before and being 27-0 in the semifinals, and we figure out a way to beat them to go to the state championship. And I would imagine Coach Garcia and I become friends. We don't talk about that game, but I'm sure that sticks in his mind as a game he should have won. But I would turn that around and say that I had some winners on my team, man. R.J. Fuquay and Aaron Lucas and Seth Hurd and those guys were some dogs, man.
I remember that group.
They wasn't the type of guys that was just going to show up and let you get them by 20 again. So I guess for me to look at it and say, I should have beat them, that would, in a small sense, be a little disrespectful to my opponent's will to win. But don't get me wrong, I've had a few of those. And shoot, just last Friday, in here, Broken Arrow hit a shot from right there at the buzzer to beat me by 1 point, or beat us by 1 point. That was the only time in the game I think that they led.
Ooh.
And so I could say, man, and there was a lot of things I could have done different in that game that could have produced a different outcome, at least in my mind when I watched the film and et cetera. But the truth is Broken Arrow came in here hungry, and they took advantage of every mistake we made, and et cetera, et cetera. So I wouldn't want to take that away from them by saying that there was something that we could have done different. But man, every close game I lose, it's
I get it.
You don't get them back, man.
Nah.
You don't get them back. And Coach Speak says on to the next one, and et cetera, et cetera. But that's just Coach Speak, man.
Don't mean you don't think about it.
Oh man, you know how it goes. You know how it goes.
I do.
You do these podcasts a lot. You listen to a lot of coaches.
No doubt.
You like to asks a lot of insightful questions and all those things. What's the best advice you've heard sitting in that chair you're in?
The best advice that I've heard, man. Look at you turning it around on me.
Or give me a couple. Give me a few. I mean, just what are some of the things that you've heard sitting in that chair doing this podcast?
You know, the first one that comes to my mind, and like whenever I was doing different renditions of this production, maybe back in like 2015.
Okay.
One of the assistant coaches on the staff at Muskogee on the girls' side that I was on, and he's a guy by the name of Jack Revis, one of the most decent human beings I've ever met. He didn't necessarily tell it to me in that chair, but I did have him sitting over there.
Yeah.
When I got my first job as a head coach at Piedmont, on the boys' side, he called me and said, AD, just do what's in front of you. And I knew exactly what he meant.
Yeah.
I didn't even need him to elaborate.
Yeah.
Of course, I pondered it and I thought about it, but I just knew exactly what he meant because I was so excited. I was 27 years old, and I'm just wanting to just go and change the whole world, right? Just go out there and I want to do everything. I'm going to have my hands on every department of this program. It's me leading the charge.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he's like, just do what's in front of you, one thing at a time. And I was like, well, damn. As I went through and got some scar tissue on me, lost 2 jobs in a row, just and I had to look myself in the mirror like, well, maybe I'm not as good at this as I thought I was. And now, at my little advanced age, I'm soft shoeing it when I need to. I'm revving it up when I need to, and I'm figuring out. I think I'm figuring out how to do this.
Oh,
thing.
you are. We're at slightly different stages of our coaching career, but I'm figuring it out too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm in the same boat. It's the same. Coaching is the most humbling experience that you could have, and I think that every time someone asks me, I've got buddies, and it's like, man, you do realize that you could do fill in the blank. You'd be really good at it. You make a lot of money. I'm sure you have people that tell you that all the time too. And and I start thinking. I think let's look at it this way. And this is one of the things that is truly humbling for me to be able to do this. Right. So, at what other job that do you show up every day to work and you prepare something? You prepare it, you get ready, and then you write down on a schedule a date and a time and an opponent to show your work. And you invite people to come in and watch you do your work. And everyone, and not only that, you bring in officials to officiate. There's rules involved in this. So you bring these officials in.
So you create an atmosphere and structure.
Yeah. And you put the score on the board that says, this is my success or my failure. And you do it every single day. And you invite people in to see it. You say, come and see how good or bad I am at my job.
Judge me.
Here it is, right here. This is what I do every day. This is how I feed my family. This is how I make a living. There's not any other that I can think of job that, and I'll take it a step further. You're doing that with somebody else's teenagers.
Ooh.
Right.
Only the most fickle creatures on planet Earth.
Yeah,
teenagers.
Yeah. And so you're relying on a perfect stranger who has their hands in the dough, so to speak, and sending it to you. And now you got to formulate it with somebody else's dough and put it all together. And you've invited you put it on a calendar. This is the date. This is the time. These are the people that are going to make sure I'm following the rules and make sure my team is following the rules against this other team. And we're going to put the score on the board for you to decide. It's going to be right there in black and white if I did my job well or not.
That's rough. When you put it in that context.
Yeah. And so, you can, there's rankings in jobs, and car salesmen can say, oh, I sold more trucks than that guy did and whatever else. And it can be a little arbitrary, but think about that. Just, I mean, you literally are inviting people in to see how good you are at your job.
It's a presentation every day.
Every day. And when those teenagers, I heard Coach talking about, his team and et cetera, and
he's got preteens.
Yeah. And I just thought about that, and I was just like, it's what we do. I mean, how crazy are we? But
for some reason we love it.
How fun are we? How fun is it?
It's so gratifying, man.
The reason I asked you that question, I was thinking about it because my assistant coach, who, we were talking and we talked back and forth. It's kind of crazy. He worked for me at Booker T.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, some people seem to say he was the first white guy that was on the basketball staff at Booker T. So I had that going for me. Now Conley's been there since then.
All right, okay. Because you had me thinking, other than Conley.
And it's funny because he was telling this story. We were in Florida over Christmas break with our team, and so we had a lot of downtime and was talking. And
there you go.
Our girls were talking. They were kind of making fun of him, just lighthearted stuff. It's clowning.
What we do.
We were in the hotel, just kind of hanging in the lobby, and so I started telling the story about how he started to work for me at Booker T. And I said, well, I didn't know him. He said I met him at Lifetime Fitness. He was doing training out there, and we met, and I told him what I did and whatever else. He says, well, I wanted to be a high school coach, and so we got to know each other. And so I hired him at Booker T, but that first year I hired him as a volunteer. He had to volunteer. I was like, I don't know this guy. I ain't paying him. And he showed up every day, busted his ass. Nobody knew he was a volunteer. I didn't say he was a volunteer. I said he was an assistant, but I didn't pay him. Mm-hmm. And he busted his behind. So we hired him the next year, and I paid him. He wanted to be a college coach. I helped him. He moved on. He was a graduate assistant for a couple of years, got a assistant's job at a Division II in South Carolina. His boss took a Division I assistant's job. So you know what that means. I mean, his boss took a job, he's out of a job.
Right.
Talked him into coming back and being my assistant here. And so we talk a lot about just basketball and different things and whatever else. And, we were on the phone today just talking about different things. And, I can't remember what brought it up. Some of a junior high team was trying to figure out, what uniforms they needed to wear. And anyway, not the story. And he said, guy I worked for, Dave Davis, was in South Carolina. He would constantly tell us, I don't want you to come to me with your problem. I want you to come to me with the solution that you had to your problem. I just heard this today. And so I can't get it out of my mind. And it's just been churning in my brain, and so I've just been playing with it. How can I bring this to my team? How can I bring this to these girls, right? Like, don't come to me with your problem, right? Come to me with the solution that you have for this problem. And it's talking to me. I don't know. I'm saying it to you because I'm interested in what you think, what that means to you, because I'm still trying to formulate in my brain how I'm going to use that. But I'm going to use it. I promise you I am.
I love that. Well, the first thing we got to do is get the right hand of fellowship before these cameras cut off.
Hey, man.
And I'm going to answer that question. It's going to be me and you.
Okay.
But I promote success for the rest of this season, Coach.
Absolutely.
I'm a fan.
Same to you, Coach.
You know what I mean? And shout out to everybody. We did a lot of name dropping in this pod right here. And so hopefully today you can listen and watch and take something from it. And, we acting like we know a little something over here.
You don't act like